Are you good with your own thoughts, just laying there in the quiet?
I'm no good.
No?
I try to, because, you know, you try something to get off the whatever the fuck you'd use to quiet your mind, you know?
Yeah.
Whether it's booze or whatever the fuck, pills, whatever it is. But I try meditation, try that, you know? To me, it worked the opposite. Like, I'm sitting in a room of people, they go, just close your eyes. They go, thoughts will happen. No fucking kidding. Racing hellish thoughts, you know? And then the guy's like, just let them go. I'm like, ah. And then you open your eyes, you look at some other fuckers right beside you. Yeah. And I tried it 3 times. I could never get to any place of quiet.
No, I need a lot of distractions, and I could still operate and work. Like I could make myself, you know, go to sleep, or if I'm working on a computer or something, I'm good with the TV on or something like that. Yeah. But I need this constant little distraction, because if you're just left alone to your own devices, your thoughts will turn horrid.
I stumped a fucking psychiatrist once. I said to the guy, because I was fucking gambling all the time, shit, right? I had a gambling addiction. I'm over it now, but shit. But he said...
I bet you're not.
That's a good one. He almost lost everything.
Oh, shit.
You haven't met Chip.
Yes, Chipperson is very funny.
But he said, the psychiatrist, he said, you're using gambling, you're fixating on gambling in order to escape your real thoughts, you know? Mm-hmm. And I said to him, isn't that why you do everything in life? And literally, I stumped him.
He had no answer.
He was like, ah. And then he recovered and tried to make it. But isn't that why you do everything?
Yes.
So you're not sitting at home
just thinking
about what's really going to happen to us?
where it all ends?
So when you look at it, it's so mundane, and that's not how I want to remember. I'd rather remember things. Like, for instance, when I was a little boy, my dad had a Bell & Howell 8mm camera. Mm-hmm. Yeah, film. There was film in it, you know, and he would take pictures of our like a birthday party, you know, and just be all these little kids like waving, you know, and sort of like in a kind of pixelated manner, and the colors were garish, and you know, and it, you know, it was bright lights, you know, the brightest light right in your face. And anyways, it would take 15 seconds because my father didn't want to, it was expensive film. But I have it, and when I look back on it, it's the way that memory is. Like, it's this sort of unreal colors and things like that, you know. So then I cut to me with my son years later, and I had a video camera, you know. And so I taped his 5th birthday, and it was like 2 hours. And then I watched it, and I'm like, I'm not going to show this to my kid. Like, it's just the most banal. Nothing happens. Just a kid walks from here to here, and then he's off. Another kid walks here, and then another kid, and then they say nothing to each other. And I'm like, I'm not going to show this to my kid. Like, I want him to remember things as he thought they were, not as they actually were.
Sure.
And so a lot of the book is meditations on memory, because I've always found it odd that people remember things falsely. And I know it's false because I'm in the story. Mm-hmm. So a guy will go, remember that time you caught that big fish? I go, I never fished in my life. It was a huge fish. I'm like, I'm telling you, I've never gone fishing. I've never been in a boat. Man, it was fun. We went and ate it in a cabin. I'm like, okay, whatever. You know, they're so convinced of it,
right?
You know, that even the person, and then I start to go, I don't know, maybe I caught a fish. Like, you know, then my memory suddenly becomes suspect. You know, so a lot of the book is sort of reflections on what memory actually is, and how you look backwards, and you know, kind of what the past is. You know, because it is, to me, faulty memory.
Sure.
And, you know, people say live in the present, which is fantastic if you can do it. But on the other hand, who lives in the present? Alzheimer's patients.
They do. That's absolutely true.
And it's a nightmare. And here's an interesting thing. A person will go, like, if you could go to a I'm going to ask you a question, Chris.
Okay.
If you could go to the greatest island of your choice and go with the most beautiful woman of your dreams and for a month have a fantastic tropical paradise. But in return, you don't remember any of it when you get home. Would you accept that bargain?
That's such an interesting philosophical question because it really divides people between who are going to live in the moment and who are doing things to remember the. I mean,
well, people do. That's the interesting thing. People go, I'm going to go to Hawaii and I'm going to get the best pictures. I'll take them, bring them back. You know what I mean?
That I 100%.
So they're going to go to a place in the future to record the past,
right? I completely.
So, and in this decision you have to make, a month of your life goes by.
Right.
That's gone.
Do I recognize that there's a month hole in my life where I go, how is it September? What happened to August?
Yeah.
Okay, so there is a gap.
Yep.
See, that's kind of a problem
month.
because I would feel like, well, I have some sort of a neurological disorder. How could I just lose a month of my life? And if
no.
Okay.
Forget about the neurological disorder. This is a Twilight Zone.
Okay, this is a Twilight Zone
episode. A guy comes up to you. A guy comes
Submit
up
for
to
your
you.
approval.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I would because I still feel like it'd be a great month.
Yeah, it'd be a great month.
And it would be a nice bonus to be able to remember that month. But then also the other side of it is, does my wife also have...
Oh, your wife.
Well, I just got married, so I say my wife. Does my wife...
No, your wife is in it, too. As I was saying that, I was like, I think Chris is married.
Just got married. Yeah. But does she remember it, too, or does it wipe from her memory?
Oh, no, it's wiped from everybody's memory.
I still think you do it. It's still a great month.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it was a weekend. I'd be
There's
like,
three other people
weekend.
that, even though they're not on mic, exist.
Yeah.
Within the room. So if you guys have a vote.
Would you vote? What would you do, Katie? You would do it? Deb?
Really?
You would do it too. Would you not do it?
No, I wouldn't do it. No.
You wouldn't do
I'm just going to say no.
Yeah.
Because you just feel like if you can't recall the experience and it didn't happen,
then it's useless. Yeah.
I mean, it's basically they're loosely probably plotting out what the storyboards were for Total Recall.
I never saw that movie.
That's basically the movie. It's like the whole concept of the movie was they would implant memories of things that you didn't actually do, but you would remember. And so Schwarzenegger's character has this psychotic break because he doesn't know. It's kind of acting out this thing that he was supposed to be a memory. I don't know, but it
sounds great.
It's that idea.
There's movies I don't watch because Arnold Schwarzenegger's in them, and then they turn out like they're great.
Well, that one's a good one.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
That's a fun movie. But I guess
anyways, I guess I was thinking when I wrote based on a true story that that the past is faulty memory, and the future is the great catastrophe to come. We know what the future is.
Right.
So we don't want to contemplate that.
Right.
And so then all we have is what we call the present, which is obviously the past.
Yes.
Like what we've been doing for this time is not the present. It's all been the past.
I recall...
It's been the recent past.
It's a very recent past. Like that.
I was trying to think of if you could... this could be a self-help thing or something. Because all history, when you think about it, is ancient history. Once it's gone, it's gone. It doesn't matter if it happened 10 seconds ago or 10,000 years ago.
Right.
It's no longer exists. So if you could have that perspective, like if you meet an 80-year-old man, and only in country and western songs are they brokenhearted. But if you realize, if you meet actual 80-year-old men, you're like, do you ever remember a girl breaking your heart? They're like, yeah. They don't remember anything about that. They're just trying to get through the day. So if you could have that, if you could make yourself have instant perspective and go, well, what will I think in 10 years about this? Because
right.
You get so emotional after, you get so angry, and you go, well, in 5 years I won't be angry.
Right. I mean, it's basically a Christmas Carol. It's like you're dealing with past, present, and future.
I should have seen these films before I came up with
Christmas
my
Carol was a
philosophies.
book.
Yeah,
you could have, but that idea of projecting into the future and going, am I still going to care about this?
Like, what's charisma? Because they say, Kennedy had charisma, but Nixon had none. And yet, if I'm flipping through the channels and I see Nixon, I stop and I listen I find him fascinating and intriguing. So isn't that charisma? I just asked this on the air to her. And she goes, "What, are you stupid if you think that?" She goes, "You stupid?" And I'm like, "Well, you're the one that married the gay guy." She married a gay guy. That's what she was famous for at the time before starting her empire. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. She married a guy, and then she married it was kind of a marriage of convenience to get Ariana more publicity, And his name was Michael Huffington.
Oh, right. Gotcha.
Senator, yeah. So, but he was open. I'm not, I wasn't like outing.
You didn't,
the guy.
yeah, of course.
No. But yeah, so I find Nixon to be just a fantastic,
I think charisma. It just on the topic.
Yeah.
I think charisma is about presence.
Uh-huh.
Like you can tell when someone's present in the moment.
Yeah.
And that's an attractive quality because I think it's a thing that most people. Because if you're present in the moment, you must have a reason for being present in the moment, and therefore you must have answers to questions that people have. So I think that's
Wait, what does present in the moment mean?
I mean, like you can tell that someone is locked into what's going on. Like if someone's having a conversation with you, they're paying attention, they're looking you in the eye.
Do you believe you're present in the moment right now?
Right now, I am.
Do you believe I am?
I believe you are as well.
I believe that too.
But I also know that there are times where I just drift. It's like, oh, I'm thinking about I gotta turn in this.
How
thing.
amazing is it that you can read like 8 pages of a book?
You gotta reread them.
Isn't that bizarre? You're turning the pages, you're reading the words, and your mind the whole time is thinking about another thing that happened.
Because one word triggers your brain, and then that just all of a sudden that word becomes like a ball of yarn to a cat in your brain, where you just spin off, and then.
But why do you keep reading it, though?
Because your body is just on autopilot, I guess. Your body, instead of.
It's interesting that your brain can automatically do things. It's almost like women that you see in factories, and their hands are moving by themselves, like,
right.
They're doing things and they can talk with their friends, or even knitting or something.
That's just all muscle memory, but your brain can't focus on more than one thing at a time, and it
can't. There's no such thing as multitasking.
You can't. You cannot purely multitask.
No.
You can do a bunch of things at once. If they're sort of...
You can stop doing one thing and then do another thing and then go back to the one
Or
thing.
like that, if your hands are... But you cannot focus on more than one thing at a time.
No.
It's impossible. And I think that is,
And if you're doing it like you say automatically, I mean, that's the same thing as saying you're multitasking if you're speaking and digesting food.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That digesting of the food is a... I read a great thing called the second brain, the gut. The second brain. It was like fascinating how your digestive system works on its own without the necessity of a brain, and even if the brain was cut out, the digestive system would continue.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
well, they're even talking about using the gut bacteria as a treatment for obesity because they're basically doing a poop transfer. They're scooping out stool, and they can put it in another. The idea being that this bacteria is healthier and will create more balance in your gut. There's a lot of stuff happens.
So what do they do? They scoop the.
I like to think two people just put their butts up against each other.
Oh, it's a transplant.
It's a transplant.
So they scoop the stool.
It's like gut bacteria, and they transplant it into another person. The theory being that just creates a healthier balance.
That used to be a hobby of mine.
Yeah.
I never thought of it.
That's therapeutic.
Yeah.
Now you feel better. Now you know you're doing it for science.
It's like the guy that just looked at the piece of bread with mold on it and invented penicillin.
I could do something with that.
Yeah.
I'll bet that would help sick people.
Yeah.
But I also think this.
But I would never go, hey, this stool I've scooped from my buddy's. But
I should put this in my stomach.
Yeah, I shouldn't have fun with it.
I probably should throw this away.
Yeah,
to be honest,
I should probably.
I'm not even sure why I'm holding on to this.
It's a bad habit. That's another thing life is. It's funny when you do an autobiography because you think you reflect on your life, and I really think habits are everything. You know what I mean? And if you have bad habits, you're in trouble.
Sure.
But if you consciously say, I'm going to have good habits, your life just gets so much better. You know, you go, I'm going to drink water. That's going to be my habit. Instead of smoking cigarettes, I'm going to drink water. And of course, the bad habits are easier, you know, and to fall into and everything like that. But I know there's addictions also and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't really know, because I don't know if research has been done where, you know, they say something's an illness. Because an illness, I don't know why they use that word, really, because an illness is something that you can be treated with, you know, narcotics or penicillin or antibiotics, you know. And you know, just calling it might just be a bad choice. Like, it might just be a bad habit. You might not be compelled to do it. You know, I tweeted Richard Dawkins, the famous atheist.
Yeah, I know he is.
And, yeah, of course, he just thinks I'm a moron, you know, because he went to Cambridge and I dropped out of high school. But I asked him, I said, you know, why does life insist? And they didn't understand. What's that mean? I'm like, well, it means, I thought he was like smart. So I said, why does life,
I know what you mean,
need to create other life?
Right.
Why do you have to procreate? Why do you have to live?
And fight to stay alive.
Yeah,
and survive,
fight to stay alive and make sure that your genes stay alive. Why do you have to do that? You know, why, if nothing matters, wouldn't the obvious thing to do be go extinct? You know what I mean? To me, that would be the clear and obviously self-evident thing to do. And, you know, in fairness to Richard Dawkins, he said, oh, well, that's a philosophical question that I'll ask my friends and I'll try to get back to you. So it was very nice. But I think it lies at the heart of theology, you know, and people of faith, especially in this town, you know, they'll say, you believe in an invisible man in the sky, and you know, they already throw on you their ideas of what you believe in, you know, although they don't know what you believe, you know, they don't know what you think of as God, you know. But the one question that have always bothered me and always bothers everybody is, how can children die if there's a benevolent God, right? And how can 6 million go through the chimney at Birkenau, you know? And this is a question that I think I have an answer for, because I think a lot about this kind of stuff. Because I'd really like there to be a God. I don't know at all, but I really would like there to be a God. Because Sarah Silverman told me, she's like, so you really believe in it? I go, I'm trying, you know. She's like, you believe in an invisible man in the sky? You know, she says it that way. So I'm like, well, whatever, if you want to say it that way. So she's like, well, good luck with that. And I'm like, well, it's a good luck for you, too. You know, it's not like your idea of like being thrown on the ground, having dirt tossed on you is such a beautiful, great idea. You know,
That doesn't bother me.
Dirt thrown on you forever?
I mean, yeah, because I just sort of feel like it's probably just a blissful state of non-existence that I had before. Boy, I'm going to be really, it's going to be a huge bummer if that's not the case.
But if you have a blissful state of non-existence, then you're talking about an afterlife.
Well, okay, blissful is probably the wrong word. I just meant I'm not aware of anything, you know. I think it'd be great if there was something, but if there's not, I think the worst thing would be your consciousness lives on, but there's nothing. So you just feel, you know.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Well, that would be hell.
I suppose.
I mean, Nabokov, I think, was the guy who said, like, he saw a picture of himself. I'm sorry, he saw a picture of his parents. And his parents had his older brother in his arm, and his mother had his older brother in her arms, and his mother and father and his older brother. But he had not been born yet. And he said he felt no grief or terror at that picture.
Sure.
Where he didn't exist.
Right.
So I thought that was very interesting. Like it's what you're saying. You know,
right.
That why be afraid of not existing? Because it's not really you that dies. It's the world that dies.
Sure.
And you know, everything there is. Everything there is and everything.
I mean, I think it would be fantastic if there was some sort of a transformation of, this is a conservation of emotional energy that, you know, once your emotional energy forms, it can't ever be destroyed, and it just disperses into the universe somehow, and you're a part of this thing that is you can't comprehend now, but once you're there, you'll totally get it.
It's very hard to believe.
But it'd be great if that were
of course it would be great.
I don't fault anyone.
But here's my answer for the chimneys. Here's what I believe. If there is a God, and if he is good, and if he created the universe and the earth, then an all good being, what can he create? He can't create good, because that would just be expansion.
Mm-hmm.
So all he can create is bad. So he creates bad, and then in a cool twist, the bad that he creates is allowed itself in a godlike way to create good from the bad. Because originally God created good from the bad, then bad from the good, and then he gives man the exact opportunity. So just from a standpoint of logic, which, you know, is what atheists always try to say, I believe that there is an answer for the question of why God allows horrors, and that's what I come up with. But I also, you know, I have a rabbi who I talk to a lot. I'm not Jewish.
No, Macdonald's. No,
I was for a year, but he's the guy that knows. You know, he's a scholar. You know, like my pastor doesn't know anything. Like he's just a pleasant guy. And he has,
I don't know. You should probably look that up. Hey, what is there? I mean, you know.
I know. If you ask him a direct question, you go, huh? What? Didn't you hear my sermon? And the sermon's always like, you know, how to be a nice fella, you know, or something. You know, it's all this nonsense. But this pastor, I phoned this pastor because I try to read the scriptures and study them. Last week I asked this priest, this rabbi. I was saying, like in the Old Testament, they have the Lord's Prayer. And in the Lord's Prayer, he says, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And I said, how could God lead us into temptation? It's without his boundaries, you know, it's without his fence. God can't do that, if I'm correct about the God of the Old Testament. He cannot. It's not in his nature. You know, the devil can, but not God. So the devil's hard to believe in. You know, people think that whatever religion you are, Christian or whatever, that you're so self-righteous, but actually, you know, they feel they're sinners. You know, when I was a Christian, I would sin all the time, and like I ate apples. That's on page 1 of the book. Worst possible thing you could do. And but anyways, I'm right now I'm of no faith. You know,
but you're looking for answers.
yeah, I'll find something. You know, I'm probably closer to Judaism right now than anything else. But I like to laughter is so important to me. You know. I'm talking about me laughing,
sure,
not hearing other people laugh,
right?
But me laughing because I'm so emotional and so sensitive that I can be broken, you know, and I know I can, you know, and so laughter is what keeps me. It really keeps me going, you know. I find like. Some things are too. I have some beliefs that are too inflammatory to even discuss, unfortunately.
Because of the way they'll be taken.
Because there are certain things in society that you're not allowed to believe or speak publicly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll just never say them. I'll just leave them in my little head. But mostly, I find all these things ridiculous, and I hate that we forced people into. First of all, I hate that we force people into identifying themselves by little tiny. Because we oppress people, we further oppress them by forcing them to identify themselves as what I consider less than human. So if someone says, I am proud to be black, I go, that's too bad for that guy, because it's a retarded thing to be proud of. We see it with white power. If someone says, I'm proud to be white, we see how ridiculous that sounds. But we don't see it when a person says, because they've been oppressed, I'm proud to be black. But it is ridiculous. We've pushed them into a corner where now they're going to spend their whole life identifying themselves by the pigment of their skin, which is a sad waste of life. Or if you say, I'm proud to be gay, that's what I am, and that's how I'll live my life. Well, boy, you're really limiting yourself there, and it's too bad. And I know you've been forced into it by being pushed down and oppressed, but it's still very, very sad. And I don't think of myself as Canadian, and I think it's a terrible thing to say you're proud to be a Canadian or proud to be an American. I think all that stuff is nonsense. You're proud to be. You may as well be proud to have lungs. You know, you didn't accomplish nothing. You're just born somewhere, or you were just born with a skin that's a certain color, or born, with a sexual attraction to a certain type of person. That stuff's it's all just little miniature things in life that are so unimportant. And when people try to tell me that God is not important, but that this nonsense is important, I couldn't disagree more.
This nonsense being life.
Not being life, being the tiny gossip of life. Like to me, saying I'm proud to be Asian, you may as well say I'm proud to have a green shirt. I don't know what the fuck you're so proud of. So I think as far as the question of God goes, I wish that science, which is supposed to explore these things, refuses to explore the fundamental question that is of interest not only to religious people, but intensely to atheists as well. They spend a lot of time thinking about something they don't care about, or they pretend they don't care about. That science should spend all their time. I mean, they spend time trying to find new galaxies, as if that's important. Since God's an unproven thing, just a hypothesis at this point, I think it would be good to study it.
Well, but it can't in the scientific process. There has to be something there. How could you even go about? I mean, they've gone through space. They didn't find God floating around. How could you possibly test it scientifically? They just say it's unknowable. It's beyond our area of what we can know. Right? It's a belief. It's a faith.
Well, that's what they say because they're thinking in evidentiary ways, but the scientific method.
What science is.
But the scientific method, first of all, the scientific method always begins with intuition. Always. Einstein used intuition. He did not study things objectively and find things. He was struck with something and then followed that notion that he had, or whatever you call that. I call it intuition. You could put divine roots to it if you wanted to too, but that's how things are, that's how important things are discovered. And obviously there is an enormous intuition amongst every person that has ever lived that God exists.
But it has to go beyond intuition into the whole scientific community verifying it or falsifying it. so it starts with that intuition, but then there has to be something there. There has to be some facts.
No, not necessarily. For instance, if you have a deep intuition that cigarettes cause cancer, which is still unproven, by the way, then you don't need evidence. And if in a court of law, you certainly don't need evidence. You don't need a body. You don't need to find a dead body. If something, if all things point to something, I don't know. I have very strong belief in intuition, and I just find it interesting that something that everyone believes, some people pretend not to. I just find that very, very interesting. That's all.
Well, it's not everyone, then. It's yeah. I think that's
like, for instance, I'll tell you this. For instance, if you see an atheist, you will never see an atheist argue that God doesn't exist because the tenets of Scientology are absurd. They will always pick Christianity. So it's very interesting that they choose the God that they decide doesn't exist, which means really they're choosing the God they think exists.
No, I don't think that's the case. If you read some atheists, they'll say that Zeus doesn't exist. The Christian God doesn't exist. That any of the gods you can think of don't exist. Or better yet, they'll say, maybe strong atheists will say that, but the intellectually more honest ones might say, there's just no evidence that they exist, and since there is no concrete evidence, why bother living your life that way in assuming that there is?
Well, here's the thing. Science has only proven maybe, I think, 4 things in the history of science. So that's why there's a theory of evolution, even though evolution is I think certain. It certainly happened. I think evolution certainly happened. Now, I could say to you if I wanted to that it is a theory because they haven't proven it. But I believe it.
They use theory differently in science. Yeah. It doesn't mean the same as, I have a theory that, whatever.
They use it because they have strict rules on what makes a law.
Right.
And it's almost, impossible for anything to become a law.
But scientists will believe that, it is 99.9% sure, given that there is evolution, but they're always open to new evidence, and they have to be. And and when you talk about Copernicus,
I don't know if they're open to new evidence. When I hear Stephen Hawking say there is no God, I go, what kind of scientist is that? I heard him say that. I heard him say there is no God. It's a fairy tale. That's not a scientist to me.
Well, that's one scientist. So the scientific community is everybody.
Stephen Hawking's.
Yeah.
That's the preeminent physicist in the entire world, is saying something out of obvious prejudice.
Did you hear the whole quote, or is this like an Adam Carolla thing?
No, I didn't hear the whole quote. No.
You read it on Facebook?
No, I did not hear the whole quote, to be fair. But I was kind of shocked that that science says, like, we've given up. I don't know when scientists started saying things were unknowable. But that's a new one on me, because that's not a scientific term as far as I know. Unknowable?
Maybe they don't.
I don't think they could. I don't think scientists could possibly use that term unknowable because it infers that they can see into the future.
Okay. Now, you can't blame me for where this has gone.
No,
right?
I can't. No.
But I'm going to go with it. How would you even begin to prove the existence of a God?
Well, I don't know, because I don't have the powers of a scientist. I certainly couldn't prove the existence of the planet Mercury, if that's even a planet anymore. I can't. I can prove anything. I'm just taking their word for it.
Right, and that's what we do. And when you say in your act, I know it's comedy, but Copernicus and Sir Isaac Newton, and they made these glaring errors. But at the time, that was the best evidence available, but who is it that always corrects them? It's science as a community. It's other scientists. It's not just somebody going, no, I got this idea. It's actually, I mean, maybe that's how it starts, but then they actually have to set out and study it and prove it.
Yes.
No, so it's other scientists that correct scientists.
I'm all for science.
Okay, good.
Because I want them to make things that'll make me live longer and stuff, But I would really like I would like eternal life. I would like some proof one way or the other. If prove it that God doesn't exist, I don't care what you prove. Like, at least prove one of them. Right. But try to work on the only important thing. Certainly everyone can agree that's the most important thing, whether or not we're alone, or whether or not we're taken care of. Certainly anyone in their right mind would agree that's the most important question to answer.
You mean for an afterlife?
Not necessarily for an afterlife, but that would also be good. But without God, there's no purpose. I don't care what anyone pretends otherwise. But it's highly, highly irrational to say that there's purpose without God, because there simply isn't.
Right, but it's not a bad thing to have no purpose. We're born, we die. Hey, it was nice.
No, that's fine, but that's not what most atheists proclaim. But no, if that were the case, that would be fine as well. But most atheists proclaim that there can be purpose in life without God.
Well, you make your own purpose, right? Or not, whatever, but you're just here for however long you're here.
Yeah, but I don't believe you can make your own purpose any more than I believe...
so a greater purpose.
No, I just think obviously a fucking dog can't make his own purpose. So, or an ant, or a honeybee, you know what I mean? So why the fuck should we think we can make our own purpose? It doesn't make sense.
So define purpose.
Again, it's this idea that man is somehow important. It's this crazy idea that both highly religious people have and atheists have, that man has some quality to them. Atheists have this idea that they can't quite resolve within themselves, that man is divine, but they can't say divine because that means God. But they believe it. They don't believe they're equal. Man, no man, I don't care what they say, no man believes he's equal to an animal or an insect. No man. I don't care if he lives on top of a mountain with snow and shit, he still doesn't believe he's an insect.
Seems like this is a reaction against certain atheists who have certain arguments, but that shouldn't affect how you believe.
No, it doesn't affect how I believe. Okay. No. I don't believe. I know. It's a different, and because I believe intuition is everything to me, more than my mind, because my mind can play tricks on me, and my mind is very easily swayed by others and so forth. I personally believe that there's something else other than the mind that you can't talk me into murdering somebody with your atheistic idea that what does it matter one way or the other. I could read all the existential literature of all time, I still wouldn't kill someone.
Take some bath salts, though.
It's good of you to try to help make this funny at some point.
Your intuition must have been proven wrong at some point in your life.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's very true. But not the real deep intuition that stayed. Like, I often would find myself like very heavily influenced by culture, or whatever you want to call it, or whatever those words are. Where I sometimes, I remember when I realized I didn't like sunsets at one point in my life, and I was like, what the fuck am I looking at this shit? I don't even like it. And I realized that I just thought I liked it because I was told they were supposed to be beautiful or something. And I remember, because I was with my kid, and I was looking at this stupid fucking sunset, like I wasted my time so often looking at it, and I was like, I don't even like this shit. Why the fuck? But you just have certain moments in your life where you come to for a second with some lucidity. But yeah, obviously we're not immune to, this terrible educative process that, weighing us down all the time. None of us are, how can we not believe in what everybody believes on some level? But, you try the best you can to maybe not wallow in cliches for your whole life. If you take any subject on any arguments people make, all they are empty, false cliches, in my opinion at least.